What's up, Modex? Day one. Happy to see everybody. Sorry we're the last thing between happy hour and the end of the day and stuff, but really appreciate you guys being here on behalf of the Raymond Corporation. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. Today we're going to talk with you a little bit about our transformative journey through how we are achieving operational sustainability goals through innovative, energy-efficient products and solutions. So my name is Damon Hosmer. I'm the General Manager of Energy Storage Solutions for the Raymond Corporation. Today I have my partner Matt Curtis with me as well.
Hi, good afternoon. So my name is Matt Curtis. I'm a product manager at the Raymond Corporation. So I am excited to get to going on this. This is a good topic to talk about because it's something that, as we go down this presentation today, Damon and I both hope that when you leave here, you're going to have some thoughts that you want to take back to either your industry, your home, your facility, wherever it is. It's thought-provoking here, so it's more of a journey that we're going to take, to echo what Damon said earlier. So as we talk about sustainability, it's no longer that buzzword that everybody might have come up with 5 or 6 years ago, right? Now it's actually in play. It's important in today's society with everything that we have going on, right?
Yeah.
In the forklift industry in particular, or manufacturing industries alone, there's several different methods or ways that we can provide sustainable practices for our companies, right? Now, one would be, for me personally, is we manufacture forklifts. So when we operate our forklifts in those facilities, we want to have energy efficient products in there. We can't afford, and probably most of you can't either, to have your forklifts down for extended periods of time. So switching out old lead acid batteries, bringing in new technology like lithium-ion batteries, coupling that with our telematics, getting data from those batteries and knowing when it can happen, makes it more efficient, and then also provides a better sustainability story for us.
So we want to start the conversation today with, right, sustainability is a fundamental imperative. It's almost, right, the buzzword that used to come from the safety perspective. And when we start to look at this transformative process, right, it becomes a top criteria for many of the things that we do today. Number one, as a material handling solutions provider, it impacts the way we manufacture product, but it also impacts the way that our customers utilize the product in their operations as well. It impacts pricing decisions, right? From a buyer decision-making perspective, we're having more and more conversations on a day-to-day basis that are really looking at price versus value, and it's a different weighting scale that's coming into the play. So when we look about the responsibility and kind of sustainability touch points from our focus, there's really 3 core areas that we look at. Number 1 is human value. Number 2 is products. Number 3 is operations, right? Both ours and yours as a consumer of these products. So when we look from a human value perspective, right, social inequality, there's many different things that apply from an employee perspective, right? Diversity, inclusion, making sure that our working population is equipped and feels sustainable with what they're doing and they feel competent in going into these manufacturing environments, right? From a community reflection perspective, that's something that's extremely important to us, right? We want to align ourselves with society and make sure that we're doing things right that are going to better the environment and support those initiatives in that societal application. From an hourly and management diversity piece, right? Looking at ways that we can attract new talent, really new skill sets to support the folks that we need to really develop a lot of the energy solutions supporting most of our manufacturing equipment. Many of us today can see the EV side of the consumer piece taking off, right? And what we get challenged with on many occasions is how do we bring that consumer feel into the 4 walls of the warehouse? So associate value, right? Many people will come to us and say, hey guys, our operators are coming in and driving a Nissan Leaf to work today. They want to have that same experience when they're going and operating equipment from that perspective. Skills training, right? A number of different things. But the supply chain is the number 1 piece that really comes through from conversations that we have. Conflict mineral statements, health and safety, the working conditions associated, right? Child labor, that's a big thing. Most of the energy products today are coming over from different countries, and there's a lot of focus on what the potential impacts are to a customer's sustainability journey. When we look at the products piece, right, decarbonization is the number 1 piece that we get asked about on a regular basis, and I like to tell people there's no silver bullet. There's no one product that's going to open up this opportunity for you to just reduce your emission footprint by just implementing a product. So when we start looking at product use in manufacturing, right, water, built environments, from a forestry perspective and a safety perspective, there's a lot of chemicals associated with many of the things that we're deploying today in these manufacturing environments and into the consumer field as well. So how can we ensure the air indoor quality piece? How can we look at dermal uptake, right? Ingestion. There's all these different things that people don't necessarily think about that, right, become implications in our customers' operations and that our investors, stakeholders, and consumers are questioning on a day-to-day basis. You know, circular economy is something that's extremely important to me. Not only is it important to have a plan on the back end of this, but as we design new products and energy systems into the warehouse operations, we look at the reuse and recycling capabilities of this. How can we extend that product life cycle? How can we take it to that next level and really drive you know, the true value stream from that to get the whole life out of it from that piece? And then the operations, right? We have a very sophisticated dealer network. So when you look at the branch level and store type stuff, how can we make sure that energy efficiency, water conservation, right, recycling, all of those same principles and lean methodologies that we employ at a corporate perspective bleed into the supply chain and the channel partner distribution piece for us. On the distribution side, right, there's so many different things. We touch so many different components. We ship forklifts, we ship parts, we ship a number of different things, and then you compact the data piece into that as well, right? There's a lot of information in different ways that we can start to really impact operations and harness a lot of that goodness. And then on the energy management piece, right, there's no lack of opportunity today. There's so many different beneficial electrification initiatives. You see state, federal, utility level programs. The IRA is a great representation of ways to investigate and take back some incentive money on your behalf to help support and prioritize some of those initiatives, because there's so many different things that you can do, as you can see here. And it's really neat as well, I think, in the operations piece, as we continue to talk with more and more developers looking at the newer facilities that are coming online, as things are value engineered and new facilities are also looked at for that next generation of customer service. We're seeing renewables becoming a big piece, especially in different portions of the country. So, right, you may be moving into a new building that you're leasing that now has solar on the roof. How can you incorporate that into your performance metrics and set KPIs to really achieve your sustainability goals as well as your customers? Anything else you'd like to add on that, Matt?
No, you nailed it. Yeah.
Anything different than, you know, from the audience? Is there anything that you didn't see up there that you guys feel is important, or? No, crickets. So, you know, I think the path to sustainability success is something that's, right, an individual. I keep going back to that journey piece, and I was talking to the folks from RICO up here prior to the thing, and I think sustainability is a lot like the digital transformation, right, that many of our organizations saw a couple years ago and stuff. So it's hard, it's complex, and there's a lot of different things that we can do. So, Matt, if you'll go to the next slide. So where are we today, right? I think we all hear constant terminology coming. We're challenged with things. If you're a publicly held company, you now have new rules, carbon accounting, right, different things. But electrification is the number one thing that we hear, right? From port to person is a big piece that we continue to focus on. So you're seeing a lot of lithium and hydrogen battery and hydrogen technologies coming in to displace these diesel engines that we've long used. You're also seeing that, right, from the maritime industry, from the intermodal industry, right? There's all different segments of the industries that impact not only the products and materials that we consume, but how they're distributed out to you all and our end-using customers as well. Decarbonization, right? I go back to that comment. There's no silver bullet. It's a complex thing. It is capital-intensive, heavy equipment in many different ways that you have to really have a prioritized strategy on. So it's extremely important to look at how it makes sense in your operation. No one operation is going to focus on the same thing. You may have a corporate mandate, but there's a number of different ways that you can positively impact those efforts if you look at the data associated with it. End of life, right? The circular product economy becomes something that I think is extremely important, right? I see some of my battery brethren in the room today, and you know, that's something that we're constantly challenged with, right? Lithium lasts a lot longer than traditional lead acid batteries, right? So how can we make sure that we're getting that value stream out of it? When you start to look at some of the hydrogen fuel cell stuff, it's interesting as well, because you have to look at the front end generation, right? Is it pink hydrogen? Is it green hydrogen, right? What's the true viable source of that generation piece? We hear a lot of times, right, our customers come to us and say, hey, we were sitting in the boardroom at this recent meeting and we were told it's time to evolve, right? That can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. So they come to us and they ask, how can we evolve? So we like to share some of our expertise and the areas that we're focusing on, which we'll show you in the next slide and stuff. But there's many different ways to do it. And again, I challenge you, educate yourself on those state, federal, and utility-based opportunities, because it's different per region. And even up into the Canadian market and stuff, right? There's some really progressive programs in place to help drive those folks to be able to achieve this, because it's one of those pieces that becomes a pillar in the business, and it's really a requirement to remain sustainable and successful as an organization going into the 21st century. Reducing energy consumption, we're all, nobody here is ignorant to the fact that electricity is one of the heaviest costs to many of manufacturing, industrial, and commercial opportunities. So as we see peak demand costs and charges continue to grow, how can we proactively mitigate that? How can we look at technology and innovation from an energy product perspective to really kind of offset some of those costs? Conversion from IC to electric, right? Again, I talk about that diesel displacement, but that's something that's really come into the material handling industry this past year, right? You're seeing a lot of changes, especially with CARB out in California. So it's extremely important for us to look at different ways to help our customers through this path to make sure that they are actively able to go through that conversion without compromising vehicle performance, without compromising the productivity in their operation as it stands today, without compromising their associates as well. And then the last piece, right? There's no lack of technology out there today, right? It's about a healthy marriage of technology and economics associated. So one solution does not fit all things. So again, use data, look at different things, create partnerships with people in your area, with people that have competencies in-house that may not be within the skill sets of your organization, right? I think there's a lot of unique resources out there, and sometimes it can be overwhelming. But I always am a huge advocate, right? There's no dumb question to ask, right? If you don't understand, ask, and let's learn together. So,
yeah, to reiterate that, partnerships are key with the sustainability path that you're about to be on. Excuse me. So, steps to achieve operational sustainability goals. When we think about the word sustainability, what's the first thing that comes to mind? And I need an answer or two from my audience too. So go ahead and shout it out if you have an answer. There is no wrong answer, but when you think of the word sustainability, what are you thinking? Environment, environment, right? That's one of them. There's also, we have social sustainability, right? We also have economic sustainability. Those three pieces all tie in together for this path. And again, part of this today is we want you to leave here going, hey, how can I make a difference there? What's that first step that I could take? So one of the first steps that you'll need to take is define what's important to you. So for me personally, my important might not be your important. Or if you have a company, if you run your company, or you're in charge of, your boss comes out and says, hey, it's time to be sustainable, let's go. What do we got to do? You have to define what's important to you. It could be anything. It could be, employee care, right? So maybe that's the goal that you want to achieve is if you have employees or you are an employee, knowing that your company or you are doing your part to make this sustainability path better is going to be comforting for you. That's one of the things that you'd like to achieve. Climate change, that's nothing new, right? That's in the news every single day. Do you want to reduce your carbon footprint? Is that what's important to you, right? We have something that hits close to home for me, future generations. I have 3 children. I want my children and their children to be able to live in a world with clean air, water, natural resources, things of that nature. So that might not line up with the industry standards that maybe my company wants to, but on a personal level, I can do that, right? So once we have those in line, we have to then create our benchmarks.
Oh, go back one.
Yeah. So our benchmarks, this is key. You have to be careful with your benchmarks. You don't want to shoot for the moon right up front with what you're looking to accomplish. You have to be able to crawl before you walk. So start off small. If there's something that you want to hit by the end of the year, your benchmark is what your current operation is. So for example, if you want to increase efficiency in your lift truck batteries, right? Or your usage, so you have lower downtime and less cost charging them. Worst case is right there where you're at. You can only go better from there. So that's your benchmark. Set it. Set a goal of 5% if you have to. Something small that you know that you can achieve through that, right?
Yeah, I just say benchmarks, right? Think about the industry and all the discussions that people have on a day-to-day basis, right? When I look at some of these publicly held companies and we're going to be net zero by 2030. Guess what? 2030 is coming real quick, and that's a real difficult thing to achieve, right? Just by making that statement. And so it's unique in the sense that people are investing more in these sustainability skill sets now, right? Those KPIs, those metrics, I think they should be aligned with, right? We talked about the incentive programs associated. Base it upon what you can get assistance for, that's some low-hanging fruit, but some opportunity to where you don't have to carry that full cost burden on the front end, right? There's things that can help guide you through these kind of benchmarks for success. And then two, right, like I think it's really important for us, right? We at Raymond certainly look to establish tangible KPIs associated with lean principles that we look at when we evaluate and analyze these operations. But like Matt said, right, there's one thing to make a statement, there's another thing to put your money where your mouth is, and that's more important to us at this point in time.
Yep, exactly. And to echo Damon, it's a partnership. He talked about that earlier. If you don't understand, or maybe you have questions about it, ask those questions. Maybe you have a friend or a family member or partnership somewhere in one of the companies that is a vendor. Talk to them, understand what their experience is with it, and see how you can contribute to this overall path.
Yep. So if you align upon that, right, start with easy changes. Oh, go back, Matt. We got two. Yep. So analyzing current operations. We at Raymond really try to look through the lens of energy consumption and applying those lean management principles as we evaluate things. So when I talk about evaluating consumption at the facility level, there's so many different things that our channel partners now sell into the marketplace, right? Many years ago, it was strictly the forklift piece. Now we have AC conveyance, we have ASRS, we have all these other parasitic loads from the building's grid level type situation that ultimately impact that overall efficiency cost from the facility side. So how can we understand those consumption economics? How can we use that to really benchmark and set those KPIs with tangible things? But then, right, it's really going back to the core of who we are, right? With the Toyota process, the TPS piece, right? That lean management that's in our blood and stuff, looking at identifying energy intensive areas, right? What's the low hanging fruit? Where are my problems at today that are causing me to hit my demand response type situations? Secondarily, what are the additional waste streams, right? There's so many different things. If you take the time to really walk through your operation and look at all the different things that take place within those four walls of that, C&I facility, it can be easily addressed, but you have to understand and baseline yourself. You can't just say, hey, I'm gonna go out and do this. You gotta start from somewhere, and you have to document that and have alignment from that team perspective.
Exactly. Yep. All right, so back to my statement earlier, start off with small, achievable goals, right? It's not so much the word small that's key there, but it's a simple goal. These simple goals have such a large impact. It's great to see it come into play for the sustainable journey that we're on. Incorporate little practices. This could be as simple as in your facility, you can put recycling bins in every corner of the conference rooms or all over the place, right? Strategically place them. Then take a 5-minute meeting once a week and do a take 5 for sustainability or take 5 for recycling. Coach, teach, show people how to do it. Those simple tasks have long-lasting impacts. It's amazing to see. Eliminate outdated equipment. I like this one. Think about it, you have a break room and you have a vending machine that's been in that same break room for 25 years, right? It's probably got outdated lighting in it. I guarantee it doesn't have the Energy Star efficiency sticker on the back of it anymore. It probably never came with one. You can remove that, get a new vending machine in. Maybe it's a soda vending machine, right? It has to keep your drinks cold. More efficient, updated products are going to be a better path for you to go down. And it's a small change. It's that simple change. Your lithium-ion batteries for your DeWalt drill. If you have manufacturing or assembly in your facility, if you have those old, outdated NiCad DeWalt batteries, you know, they're not efficient anymore, and you spend more time charging them than you actually do using them. Swap them out for the new lithium-ion batteries. Or even yet, your forklift, right? So if you have an older piece of equipment in your facility, you can start by using an updated version of a battery. You know, we have the new advanced lead-acid batteries out there. We have lithium-ion batteries. Or maybe it's time to get rid of that truck and get a more energy-efficient one. So there's a lot of different opportunities there. And then, by far my favorite one, which I think a lot of people have come to terms with today, is LED lighting, both in your home, in your parking lots, in your garages, you know, in your facilities. The comparison between an incandescent light and an LED light. So incandescent gets roughly 1,200 hours before it dies. An LED light can go well over 100,000 hours. So just take that into perspective for just a few minutes. If you have a 1,000,000 square foot facility and you want to swap out for a more energy efficient light bulb, that's going to cost a fraction of what it would take to power that incandescent light bulb, right?
And it's funny, right? It goes well beyond just simple light bulb changes, right? Controls and everything else, which we'll talk about on the next slide. But you know, the last one's really near and dear to me, right? And there's so many new opportunities, but we talk again about the incorporation of renewables and battery storage at the facility level. We're seeing this become more and more prevalent within our customer bases. So how can we produce and store valuable energy on site? How can you incorporate and harvest that excess energy from those renewables and implement that back into your facility operation to offset some of those costs? There's lots of incentives out there. There's lots of really good people that have strong expertise. It goes back to that partnership. Don't try to be all things to all people, right? We're better together, and this is one of the areas that we're really going through this journey on as we transition in this next slide. That I think is really key for us. But we share this with you today. I think this is unique because this is from a Raymond perspective, right? This is what we have from an in-practice point of view. But what I want to caveat to the team and set the tone as is it doesn't mean that it's right for you, right? You've probably made some of these changes, right? There could be people in this room that are well advanced of where we are today, but at the same time, these are some of the tangible examples that we'd like to roll through with you guys. So alternative fuels and energy sources, right? As a corporation now, we're looking at Class 8 over-the-road trucks, right? Biofuels are coming into more and more conversations. The evaluation of hydrogen, right? Being a Toyota-owned company, we have the ability to look at some of our automotive brethren and learn from their technologies as they incorporate new stuff into the States to meet CARB compliance and other things. Within our production facilities, we've migrated from lead-acid batteries, right? And if you came to Green, New York, you used to see huge battery extractors, right, where we were plugging to keep the line constantly operational. And even part of that was just end-of-line testing because of the magnitude and volume of trucks that were coming off the line. We've migrated over to lithium now, so instead of being a 3-to-1 type scenario with a big extractor and battery chargers humming, right, transformers just sitting there, now we're a 1-to-1 with lithium, and we've reduced the facility infrastructure significantly, right, which helps with overall cost as well. Hydropower, right? That's a really unique thing. Being in upstate New York, we're lucky enough to where our generation sites are, you know, hydropower, and then our secondary generation from the power plant perspective becomes the nuclear focus. So I think that's really important, and a little fun fact for the group in here that you may not know, but you know, Raymond in Green, New York would be a net zero facility if it wasn't for our cafeteria. Because of our cafeteria and the food waste that's associated with that, that eliminates our ability to really claim that net zero piece. So that bleeds into some of the recycling and reuse stuff. Like Matt mentioned earlier, right? Coaching our associates, right? Please don't throw away plastic bottles. Please make sure that we're putting things here. Looking at different containers, right? From our food vendors and stuff, things that are biodegradable in different ways that can go back into, right, that value stream to eliminate some of that waste that's associated. I really like the energy efficient, equipment shutdown practices. So many times I walk into facilities and it'll be locked out, tagged out, but it's still powered on. So we question a lot of those things, but that's a very simple low-hanging fruit and something that we practice in our operations as well. If it's locked out, tag out, we're de-energizing it, we're making sure that we're not consuming any unnecessary power from that perspective. We also have a lot of water reuse initiatives associated with the Niagara hydropower piece, but paint booths, all these different things, right? You have to be able to create potable water from some of the waste streams that come out of that manufacturing process. And that water reuse is something that we're constantly evaluating. Matt mentioned, the LED piece, and that's low-hanging fruit for a lot of people, but again, I walk into C&I facilities on a day-to-day basis, and maybe the second, third shift don't operate in one of the campus warehouses. Why are the lights on? Why isn't it controlled from a temperature perspective unless it has to be because of the product associated with it? So there's, again, little things that can be tweaked, but it's also by embracing some of that technology and innovation as well. It doesn't have to be a manual flip of the switch. There's plenty of things from a controls perspective that can help us really move that way. Sustainable packaging and recycling. I think everybody in this room probably deals with this issue, right? Customers want everything to come directly from the factory to them in one straight shot. And then how do we take those packages, those pallets, that crate that the forklift came in or the lithium-ion battery, how do we use that to take product back to the factory, right, and reuse without having to, eliminate any of that piece. And then the other thing from an LED perspective, when you talk about the safety of the, societal side of this and stuff, we're seeing a lot of people really incorporate, and we've done this at Raymond as well, put LEDs in the actual parking lots, right, for associates. A lot of our customers in these commercial and industrial facilities, right, it's never in the best neighborhood in a lot of cases and stuff. So being well lit is really important to the safety of your folks and stuff. So making sure that we have that as well is really key. But this is where it gets real fun, right? This one's really near and dear to my heart. So we share this with you. This is a collaborative effort that we worked on with Binghamton University and NYSERDA. It's a recent project that we announced to the industry from a microgrid perspective. So when you look at the top left-hand graphic, just very quickly, we have 240 kilowatt PV system on the roof, and then we have roughly 300 kilowatts of battery backup that are supporting this initiative. But it's really unique when you start to look at it, right? There's hardware associated, but our efforts are really focused on the warehouse energy management systems. How can we create a software technology that will, number one, give us the ability to look at that warehouse operation and start load forecasting for the next day? If I can understand, because of my parts picks and the volume of product that will move through that facility, I can then start to look at the next day, how can I reorganize, how can I strategize my charging schedule to make sure that we're efficiently moving product through that facility, but we're also mitigating some of that demand piece. Solar power forecasting, right? We can watch weather. There's AI and other things that help us from the control perspective. So now we can look at how much energy will that system potentially perform or support on that next day. How do we harvest the excess energy like we talked about earlier, and how do we redeploy that to offset some of those costs? The beauty of this project, right, especially from the NYSERDA side, is it gives us visibility and a partnership to the utility side of the piece as well, right? So that demand response participation, how many people in here participate in a demand response program today at their facility? So one, right? That's pretty powerful, because the utilities will pay you not to consume power during certain times of the day. There are revenue generating streams that many corporations and enterprises are not aware of. And it's really unique to start to learn some of these nuances and build out programs and educational information for our customers to share from our experience and journey and pass that along. We've all seen I bet a couple people in here maybe even have, right, one of the new F-150 Lightnings, right? So that's kind of the next thing. We're evaluating and investigating the forklift vehicle to grid, bi-directional control systems. So think about the commercial, right, with the F-150. Guy loses power at his house, he plugs it in, boom, right? He's running, he's got his AC, his washing machine, whatever he needs. Life is normal again. Why couldn't we do that in the event of weather catastrophes in some of our customer facilities? So that's really what we're looking at. You've got 36, 48 volt systems, you've got a couple hundred forklifts in a facility. you have a weather catastrophe, a hurricane, a brownout, a wet winter storm, whatever it may be, you go into the facility because there's mission critical things that need to take place, but those mission critical systems like emergency lighting, IT infrastructure, other things don't have the ability to operate and limit your capability in those kind of distressed situations. We want to see if we can offset some of that and really help, learn as an industry and be able to open up new opportunities that would create some grid resiliency in the case of those catastrophes. From a faster forklift charging perspective, right, again, we're looking at unique ways that, again, that bidirectional multi-voltage charging, both in manual and wireless fashions, but looking at some of that demand forecasting from the warehouse perspective and then bleeding that in. Maybe we don't need the full fleet running and we can dump more power quicker into some of the certain mission critical vehicles that we need to operate in those scenarios. And then again, the stationary battery storage, right? That's a key component that can be scalable at many different facility levels. So we want to continue to learn more about that. But this is a really neat project that we're proud of, and we're really excited to continue to learn. And I think, Matt, if you could transition to the next one, one of the things that's really cool is this innovation, the deployment of AI, looking at some of this predictive analytics and looking at ways to better have that predictive maintenance at the facility level and everything. It's important in so many different fashions, right? There's a lot of data, but we shouldn't let that data, how do I say this? Many people want that data to be perfect, right? Like if it's not perfect, they're like, oh, it won't work type situation. And you forget about a lot of other things that could be accomplished within that same type scenario. But we recently made an announcement. We were opening up a new TMH&A energy facility up in Rochester, New York. And that is going to be a core hub for us to really look at this next level of generative technology to help support some of these facilities. But a couple key examples as well, right? The data piece is really important, not only from a consumer perspective, but from an ownership perspective. So when you put a system like this in place, right, you're buying it because you've been given certain commitments or guarantees, right, from a partner on what you're going to generate from a power perspective and things. So you can look at this and make sure that the performance of the system is actively working, right? A good example that may hit home with some people, but I think it was maybe 18 months or so ago, right? We noticed there was like 3 or 4 days of just no production at the system level. Well, it was during the Canadian wildfires, right? And even though it was sunny outside and stuff, right? There was so much smoke in the air in upstate New York, right? It eliminated our ability to really capture that beautiful sun and create that energy and stuff. Same type situations when you go back and look at historical performance, right? Optimization and continuous improvement is such a key thing for us at the facility level. So you go back and you analyze and you look at where those performance gaps were, right? Another key one is we had a system, right, that only 2 out of 3 inverters were effectively working and supporting the system, right? So it was limiting our production. But because we had the data to look at that, because we had the expertise and the partnerships in place, we were able to really, grasp that, make sure that we had root cause analysis and corrective action to go into place to offset that piece.
Yeah. So other ways that Raymond also goes into this sustainability journey is we have a program called Renewable. So we take those trucks that we talked about earlier that were, end-of-life trucks, we scrap them, we take the components out that we know that we can reuse or update with new technology, new wires, whatever you want to call it there, and sell them for an efficient price to people out there that want to buy used parts. That helps with this journey, and what we talked about earlier is it's full circle. We manufactured it. It's end of life. Now we're able to take those parts in there. We can consume those back into a program and eliminating the waste that would come from just letting a forklift sit out in your yard and rot and what, So reducing emissions can come from this. It takes a lot more energy to be able to manufacture a new forklift, right? By taking those components out of that, refurbishing them, making sure they're good, that's less energy for the same thing that we can get back out into the world of forklifts.
And it's not just steel and wheels, right? It's control electronics, it's a number of different things as well.
Absolutely. We save on raw materials. Forklifts are made out of steel. If we have to, we can scrap that steel. We can reuse that steel again, and we can go back through this whole path that we keep talking about. We all know the recycle, reduce, and reuse, right? They're a catchy tune, I think, and Saturday morning cartoons when we were younger. That's what we were doing with Raybill. And one of the most powerful things that I think has come from it right now is, to date, we have recycled over 10 million pounds of core materials. That's the small little steps that make that large impact happen that I talked about earlier. By taking those components, reusing them, fixing them, getting them back out there.
I'm just going to make the comment that he's selling himself short because it's well beyond 12 million pounds now at this point in time. So,
yep.
Got to poke my partner a little bit.
But again, those little steps have such a big impact. You might think taking a forklift that you were going to just leave out in the yard to rot away and grab off, the motor controller from it, and you take it in and you make sure that it's all cleaned up, you reuse it. That's very powerful. That's less stuff that's going to just sit out there and rot, right? So don't ever think that you're selling yourself short by only doing these little steps, because those little steps make big impacts.
Profound. Yeah, so right at the end of the day, in closing today, the power of innovation and sustainability has become a pillar in our business, and it's something that we're going to continue to be challenged with from investors, consumers, and stakeholders alike, right? So we want to demonstrate the benefits of sustainable practices. We also want to look at how these sustainability initiatives impact our long-term goals. So I challenge you all, keep ideating things, reach out to people, ask questions, look and educate yourself on new technologies, new programs to help you move through this journey, because there's plenty of things that we can do together to make this world a greater place. So with that, we really appreciate everybody's time today. If you have any information, we do ask if you'd scan the QR code, provide some feedback, but there's our contact information as well. We'd love to have a conversation with you. If you'd ever like to come up to Green, New York, or Rochester with a new energy facility, we'd be happy to have you around and tour you through it. But thank you guys for your time today, and hope you all have a wonderful Modex.
Yeah, thank you. Can you turn us off?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm still going.
Oh. Good? Yep. Yes, ma'am.
I apologize. I can't hear from back there.
Instead of me putting them in a dumpster to get to the scrapyard, how can I make sure that either all of it or some of it gets into a rebuild, even though I may not be buying another Raymond? So
Sure.
gifting it, giving it to you, that kind of stuff. How do we do that?
It really just depends, right? Traditional acquisition, people will buy back. Many of our dealer partners will actually take back and give you a core credit for that vehicle. I would say that every vehicle that comes back from a captive lease scenario goes through that process before it's redeployed and sold through like a renewed process. We have people, right, that will take those vehicles, put them into the rental fleets for lighter duty applications. So there's a number of ways that we can ensure that for you. But we do have, right, death certificates, if it's a battery, EPA, information for you. But it's all documented. It's extremely important. And, again, we'd love to be able to show you the process in person at some point in time if needed. So.
Yeah, that'd be a good start. Yep.
Yes,
yep.
ma'am. Yep, they would coordinate back with the factory and stuff. So. Anybody else? All right, well, it's about beer 30, so. Hope you guys have a good day. Thanks again.